Now, on the back of the President's address last night, the future for solar power companies looks bright. Solar companies across the country are reporting a boom in their businesses, but many questions still remain about the cost and maintenance of solar. The President's plan has also received mixed reaction from different quarters. For example, some trade unions claim they were never consulted, but some stakeholders like Business Unity South Africa were part of the consultation process. Now, let's unpack what the President had to say, all his different angles, as we double-click on a number of the subjects that we are considering this afternoon. I'm joined by Cas Coovadia, the CEO of Business Unity South Africa, Dr. Trevor Ngwane from the Soweto Electricity Crisis Committee, and last but not least, James Siedle, the CEO of Ample Power. They offer solar and other kind of backup solutions. Good afternoon, gentlemen. James, I'm going to begin with you. Have you seen a spike or an improvement or an increase in demand for solar recently? And I guess you are hoping there'll be more after President's address last night.
Let's just put it this way. Eskom's been my best marketing campaign.
So what the President said, for your business, you are smiling all the way. But have you been seeing demand recently? Because load shedding has been with us since 2007.
So let's get serious. Yeah, certainly, on the commercial side, that crossover has happened where solar becomes very cost effective to offset your daytime usage of electricity. So it's a no-brainer now whether or not you finance it or else you sort of provide your own funds. With a payback of, in many cases, less than 3 years, with a 25-year warranty, you've got a power plant that's going to generate enormous annuity for you over the next coming years. So commercially, it absolutely makes sense. On the residential side, obviously, everyone's adding batteries. A lot of people are going hybrid off-grid. They're obviously trying to make sure that their sort of lifestyle isn't upset with the batteries, and then obviously using solar to offset the electricity bills, which are obviously escalating. So yes, absolutely, we've had a huge spike.
Yeah, and those people who can afford. Doctor, let me bring you from Soweto, Dr. Ngwane. You've been speaking and campaigning for many years now. Soweto's electricity problems are not just about load shedding. I mean, there's been issues of infrastructure and cable theft and issues of cost of the electricity. Listening to the President last night, if you think about solar, I don't know if households in Soweto could afford that. What were your thoughts when you were hearing what the President was saying? Do you think finally Sowetans can be hopeful that their dark days will be over soon?
I don't think so, Dan. Like James has said, he's a happy man. And I saw a statement issued by Comrade Cas Coovadia there saying he's so pleased because actually most of, Business Unity South Africa's proposals were taken in on board by the President. But none of our demands, our grievances, our concerns as ordinary people on the ground, besetted by, poor infrastructure, by the inability to keep up with the very expensive tariffs set by Eskom were touched upon. Indeed, the President said nothing about poor working class people. The only time he mentioned them was in relation to illegal connections. Of course, he did, I suppose, generically include them when he said everyone must put, a solar panel on their rooftop. But as you suggest, then, many people won't be able to afford that. So there is no business for James from that sector.
Dr. Cas, let me bring you in here. Dr. Ngwane says, you've seen your statement where you are welcoming the President's announcements, and you were very much involved and consulted, unlike some trade unions that are saying they were not consulted. And Dr. Ngwane says his community, for example, in Soweto was also not consulted. But for you, what's the nub here going forward, Cas, from a business perspective?
Well, Dan and colleagues on the panel, we, from a business perspective, we've consistently taken the view that the energy problem in South Africa is holding back attempts at attracting investment and growing our economy. We have significant headwinds in doing both of those without the energy problem. The energy problem has severely impacted on that, even in addition to the other headwinds we have. And the issues we put on the table publicly, and to which the president's statement sort of resonated, we don't believe that it's because we put that out in the public. We believe that the president had been, and with experts he's been consulting, has been considering these issues for a while. But we believe that this is a step in the right direction to begin to address the energy problem. It's not going to stop load shedding now, not for another 18 months or so, but at least it begins to address the issue of getting renewables and other forms of energy onto the grid as quickly as we can. That has got to be good for economic growth, and that has got to be good for addressing some of the challenges that we have in the country. Now, the issue that is being raised on affordability and so on, I think we all need to put our heads together to ensure that as we move from fossil fuel-based energy towards cleaner energy, that we actually do not leave people behind, that we do need to find ways and means of ensuring that energy and electricity and reaches as many people as possible. And government obviously has a critical role to play in that. But, the bottom line is that renewables are undoubtedly, the cost of renewables has gone down. There has been debate recently on input cost because of the increase in some of the inputs that go into renewables and into solar energy. But even with that, renewables are undoubtedly cheaper than what electricity is costing us through Eskom currently. And that will help in actually making that more inclusive. So we are very happy in that what the president has announced will take us towards addressing the energy crisis over the next 18 months to 2 years. The issue now is to get implementation going as quickly as possible so that we don't wait any longer, and we don't wait longer than 18 months to 2 years to actually address the energy crisis.
Yeah, many people, particularly in townships like Soweto and other disadvantaged areas, have lived without electricity for quite some time. Even with prepaid electricity, I understand people have got prepaid meters, Dr. Ngwane, in many parts of Soweto. Even if they pay, sometimes they'll spend like 100 Rand a day just to get electricity, 100 Rand over 3 days. That's quite a lot of money. Some households spending up to 5,000 Rand. Is there anything at all from what the president said yesterday for you, Dr. Ngwane, that could say, okay, maybe we're moving in the right direction? Are you seeking to be part of this National Energy Crisis Committee that the president is going to have to do this broad-based consultation gathering?
Well, it's amazing because, our organization, the Soweto Electricity Crisis Committee, was formed in 2000. And then 22 years later, the president forms our mother body, the National Energy Crisis Committee.
So you think it's taking too long to get here?
Well, where was he, Yeah, and then also in doing that, as you've indicated, Dan, and SAFTU's complaint, we were not consulted. And I hear now Cas is saying the right thing, saying that, this issue of affordability has to be addressed. But Business Unity South Africa did not include this issue, in their proposals to the president, nor did they include it in their statement, after, when they were kind of being happy about what the president says. So I think that we can expect that my organization, SAF2, and other community and social movements will be excluded from this NECC, the National Energy Crisis Committee. I hope that Cas will actually, speak about affordability when he sits there with the president.
But you should be on that table. I mean, that's a view I have. If the president said everybody must be involved, shouldn't you be, maybe lobbying is the wrong word, shouldn't you be appealing, knocking on the door of the presidency and say, hi, I'm Dr. Ngwane from the Soweto Electricity Crisis. Oh, you might not know about us. We've been around for 20 years. I want a seat at this table.
Well, it's amazing because the people of Soweto had a march about 2 weeks ago, marching to the mayor's office and all that. And I'm sure that the president knows about that, but still he didn't feel, he should invite us. So I think actually, although I agree with you, Dan, but I think that there's something deeper going on. There's something which I call energy racism. The view that ordinary black working class people, black working class areas somehow are not entitled, to energy. Somehow, they can live without or with less energy. Somehow their needs can be neglected.
That's a very sad state of affairs if you're perceiving it like that. James, I'm going to come to you around the cost and affordability issue as far as the solar power comes, because the president spoke about that at all. But before that, Cas, you've written before, you've commented before on local governance issues. So you're very close to the communities for many years, even before you were where you're here. What are your thoughts when you hear Dr. Ngwane saying there's energy racism in the country?
So look, I don't know whether I term it energy racism, but Comrade Ngwane makes a point. And just to say that we didn't say this in our statement because we, in our discussions with ESCOM and so on, we've said that we have indicated that it doesn't, it's not sustainable if, hundreds of thousands of people in our country do not have access to energy. Our part of, even the move from fossil fuel-based energy to cleaner energy, we're working very, very hard on a just transition pathway for that to ensure that we take everybody along with us. It's got to be inclusive. So to me, that's a given. I don't think there's a debate about that. And we need to work together on that. Where the private sector can play a role in that, we will play a role in that. But ultimately, it's government's responsibility to ensure that energy does reach as many people as possible. So and one of the issues in the president's statement is to make it easier for local authorities to actually get energy, to produce their own energy if necessary, to buy energy as well, and to get it to the end users as quickly and as cheaply as possible. The whole wheeling concept. So all of that is in the plan, and we need to work to make that happen. Just one point then, before you move away from me, just so that it's absolutely clear. We haven't been invited to sit on the National Energy Crisis Committee. Our understanding is that that's a committee where government ministers and others are sitting and they're coordinating and hopefully getting things moving. Hopefully we'll be able to work with that committee. But just to clarify publicly, we haven't been invited to sit on that committee.
No, thank you very much. It must have been a little bit of a misconception on my side, but thanks for clarifying that. James, cost and affordability, solar panels. The president speaks about we need a massive, that's the word he used. I'm trying to find that part here on the of the speech, but I remember he talking about we need a massive rollout of solar panels. Have they become cheaper and cheaper? I remember many years ago in the 90s in the Tsutsuma village in Alexandra. You can see it along the N3 highway. If you drive in Johannesburg, they gave them these solar panels at the time. And there was this buzz in the Johannesburg about the residents there going to be getting solar power. Cost-wise, affordability-wise, where are we at with solar panels in the country today?
Yeah, I just would like, just before I answer your question, just to support both Cas and the Honourable Doctor's views, and that is, it's great for us to have a lot of new business, but you're very right that it's not really meeting the masses and the sort of lower to mid-income, and that's a big problem. And how do we address that? I think solar, just thinking through as you were discussing everything, I think the only way is perhaps through subsidies, but I think that's been addressed as a possibility from the president. But subsidies are still not going to reach the masses and those on the ground. So perhaps the only way then to help the majority of the population is to make make energy more affordable, and solar can help reduce those costs.
What about innovation? Could you see a space for an opportunity because you are in this industry of solar power, for example, James? What about innovation where you get I hate using the word cheap, but a more affordable version of whatever solar panel system is all about?
That's solar panels and batteries are expensive. Let's get to the bottom of it. Unless they're subsidized.
Okay.
It's an expensive product. It's basically a 25-year warranty. What else do you know that has a 25-year warranty? Panels last, have a warranty for 25 years. The model lithium batteries have a 10-year warranty. Yeah. Even our cars have that. So I think subsidizing smaller units, which are more affordable, is just going to be a problem because ultimately you've got to match the energy demands from that particular household, and that's a very difficult problem. Yeah. Because you've got to is tying into their local electricity board and their DB and amendments that need to be made in the DB. So it's a costly installation, let alone a costly product.
Yeah.
So I think perhaps a community approach, where you have sort of microgrids that are supporting local communities indirectly rather than solar panels and little systems on individual houses, is probably the better approach, which is happening in the rest of Africa and Europe as well.
Okay.
And thereby you having a communal solar plant with batteries supplying a community indirectly. That's something that perhaps the government needs to look at, and perhaps the community needs to get involved with subsidies from the government for that. That's the way to do that.
James, very briefly, you say it's expensive business. Solar panels and batteries are expensive. With the demand that's likely to come now after last night's address, do you foresee that over the next short to medium term, the prices might begin to come down? Because there's more now people wanting them or not?
The reality is that with all the chaos that's been going on in the world with regards to the pandemics, as well as the floods, as well as the shipping problems, panels and batteries have actually gone up over the last year. And I don't foresee that sort of stabilizing for at least another couple of years. The exchange rate hasn't helped that either. It's basically making things more costly as well. So on the ground, we're not seeing reductions in prices. We are seeing efficiencies in the industry. But South Africa, we're not realizing, is it because our shipping costs and obviously our exchange rate works against us.
Yeah, Dr. Ngwane, let's come back to you. The issue when we talk about poor areas or disadvantaged areas and townships like Soweto, the issue of affordability is always there, besides the questions around the kind of infrastructure. The people of Soweto have expressed, and when they marched to Dr. Mpopalatz's offices just a few weeks ago, we covered it here live on ENCA. They made it very clear that they want to pay, they're willing to pay what they can afford. But even when they can pay, and there was a suggestion of 500 Rand, the supply from City Power, they still don't get the power. What should what do you think is the role of your organizations as a community to assist in making sure that going forward, people get sustainable electricity supply?
Yes, that's a very important and appropriate question, because remember then, although, we can support marches like that, but at the moment, because of the crisis of poverty, unemployment in the working class, communities are a bit disorganized. And if you look at some of the demands, for example, in that march, I think more than 20 memoranda were submitted by different people from different parts of Soweto. But an organization like ours, which has spent a lot of time studying the issue. So, for example, I can say now categorically, the future of energy in South Africa and everywhere else in the world is renewables, because the earth simply cannot take any more of carbon emissions. So James is, at the right time, at the right place. James, continue there. So the question now is, how, do we make this accessible to ordinary people? Unfortunately, the president is coming with what I can call a commercialized, privatized approach. So what is needed? Prize one is for the president to come with a program to put those rooftop solar panels in all working class areas, maybe starting with the poorest of the poor. Prize two is exactly what James is saying, finding a way, for example, community mini grids, and it's correct in Kenya, in other parts of Africa, that is being done. But there is no way that we can just continue willy-nilly with burning coal. We saw what happened in Natal, in KZN. We saw what happened with Cyclone Idai in Mozambique, and Zimbabwe. So that is the way forward then.
Okay.
So this is what we have to talk to the community, persuade them around, and then also get the government, to come on board and help us. And perhaps business.
And perhaps business, yes, not just government subsidizing. Okay, in the last 3 or so minutes that I have left for our conversation, gentlemen, I want to ask you a broader question and get your response. Very, very briefly, here's my question. This is not a first plan or kind of a plan or measures the government is presenting on any issues. We've had so many different plans in the past, round about how to recover our economy. Post the pandemic, there was a recovery plan. Now the Russia-Ukraine war came into play. There's more other challenges. There's plans and plans. And in Business Unity South Africa statement, Cas, you mentioned this point that you hope this plan will be implemented with focus and speed. Are you confident this will happen? Because this country's got good policies, good plans, but seemingly fails when it comes to implementation.
Yeah, amongst the things the president said is that we need to beef up capacity across the board in Eskom and in addressing this crisis. And he indicated that he will consider working with private sector and others to bring in capacity, to bring in expertise. We have to take him at his word on that, and we will follow up on his statement with our public offer of assisting in this, and we will be suggesting to him that we pull together a small team, bring in the necessary expertise and capacity, and get the implementation going. So we have to believe that government is serious about doing that, and we will definitely follow that up.
James, as a small business owner, an important one in this energy sector with your solar power offering, what are you hoping for?
I'm hoping to see some stability, not just in our market, but in the economy, to be honest with you. I just hope to see that we can get some foreign investment and sort of confidence in our country. And in all honesty, my biggest hope is that we stop the waste and corruption, which really is the true heart of why we've got problems with our power at the moment. That's the honest truth, is that if we hadn't... people hadn't been squandering away the sort of millions that's been poured into Eskom, and also the way that our Eskom facilities are being run, we wouldn't be in this situation.
Okay. The President made the point as well differently last night. The final thoughts from you, Dr. Ngwane. I mean, what would you be hoping for? Yes, you didn't see much about in this plan for the poor and stuff, but broadly as a South African, in terms of resolving of our energy crisis.
Well, the political elite, the ANC in particular, and the president, with all due respect, I think they lack vision, For example, I don't think that we can address the question of energy, piecemeal without contextualizing it within the broader challenges of development in South Africa. So, for example, we have to find a way of linking energy solutions with the government's industrial policy, with the government's education policy, and finding ways, to reskill, create climate jobs, so that, we can solve most problems through one trust, through one vision, through one program, which incorporates all the aspects of, the lives of the people.
Thank you very much. That's Dr. Trevor Ngwane from the Soweto Electricity Crisis Committee and the CEO of Business Unit South Africa, Cas Coovadia, as well as James Siedle, the CEO of Ample Power. Gentlemen, thank you for your time and your views around this very important issue. I'm sure there'll be many more opportunities for us to continue engaging on this in the days, weeks, and months to come. I appreciate your time here on today.